In a most candid look at alcoholism, drug addiction, and recovery, we want to welcome the author of a new book titled Sobriety Confidential. Let's welcome Chris Sicke. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Layla.
It takes a lot of guts to tell your story.
Yeah, it's my story. It's what happened. If I could help anybody by sharing even the most intimate things, then so be it.
When would you say that you first realized that you became addicted to alcohol and drugs?
Oh, Lord. I rummaged through my mom's medicine cabinet when I was about probably 6 or 7.
Really?
And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was looking for. Got some pills and ended up having to go to the hospital.
Oh, no.
And I didn't tell them where the pills came from. But what it got me was some attention. It got me out of school. It got me, I took the next day off from school. My mom made me soup, all that love I got from that. So to me, those pills equated that.
So it was almost an addiction to the attention before it became an addiction to the actual substance.
One thing, yeah, for sure.
So that was when you were 6 years old. And so when you then became truly addicted to substances, how old were you and how long was that journey before you decided enough is enough? Right,
so, in my probably late 30s is when I really started going hard at it. Before that, there'd be stretches here and there where, I'd get out of hand, but I'd always pick myself back up and go through stretches of, semi-manageable.
Functioning,
yeah. But the problem is that as an alcoholic and a drug addict, I wasn't living a solution. This was self-will, which for us is not a good thing.
Right.
We have to be very careful when it comes to our self-will.
And were the drugs, were they illicit? Were they prescribed?
No, there were issues with Adderall. There were issues with opiates. There was issue with cocaine,
so it's
alcohol.
Kind of all the above.
Yeah.
Would you find yourself kind of immersing yourself within crowds that made it a lot easier where you had company, or were you isolated?
So in the beginning, it was all friends and it was fun. And then it got to a point to where it stopped being fun.
Yeah.
And I started embarrassing myself, and it got to the point, it's like, I can't embarrass myself, but I can't not do the drugs or drink. So I just started isolating myself, pushed friends and family away. And we're talking about my best friends, that I've known since kindergarten, pushed them away.
Yeah.
Family, all my loved ones, just to protect myself from the embarrassment.
Right.
Yeah.
And going down this road, it's not just the addict that's going through it, it's also the friends and the family.
Oh, yeah.
And so what was your experience with those surrounding you when you were out of control, and then when you finally decided enough was enough and you wanted to get on the straight and narrow?
Well, my mom told me when I was about 7, Chris, your dad was an alcoholic, so you're probably going to be an alcoholic.
So it kind of ran in your family.
Yeah, my dad was an alcoholic. Okay. My stepfather after him was an alcoholic. So they knew my history, and they kind of watched it all unfold. When I was 15, I went to my first rehab. When I was 17, I was in a car wreck where I was nearly killed, given last rites 3 times.
Gosh.
When I hit a pine tree going about 55 miles an hour, and it was in the hospital for several months. It took me a couple of years to walk again.
Yeah.
So they've always seen it. It's just been a matter of me seeing it.
Right.
Which it took decades for me to see it. I didn't want to accept it.
And what do you want people to take away from this book? Because it sounds like it's not just for the addict who's going through what you went through, but also for those supporting the addict who wants to get out of that vicious cycle.
There's a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of flawed perceptions around sobriety, around recovery, around 12-step programs, around getting help for yourself. There's all these kinds
withdrawals.
And withdrawals, which is, a lot of people know about the physical withdrawals. What a lot of people don't talk about are the mental or emotional withdrawals. And that is like, because once you get everything out of your system, you know, you can either go into guilt and remorse over what you've done and have a morbid imagination about the future. Or you can feel like, I feel great now, you know, and then you forget about the hell that you went through, you know? So that's one aspect of it, but another aspect is wanting to continue that depraved cycle of negative thoughts that you were living in, you know, for so long. You know, how do you get out of that? Because you're going from a known state of existence, which is when you were drinking and drugging, to an unknown state of existence, which is getting sober. Like there's fears around that. You know?
Do you think people will find a solution within these pages?
The solution I found is in those pages, and I try to be as general but specific at the same time. There's not just one. There's all kinds of different 12-step programs. There's churches. I've seen people get sober going to church. I've seen people get sober many different ways. But all of those different ways contain basically 3 elements. That's reliance on a higher power. That's reliance. And that's also a fellowship or having a community aspect to it. And then the third is addressing your flawed perceptions and your character defects. No matter what you do to be successful, to be sober, those are things that you have to do.
Well, folks, you can go on to Amazon to buy this book, Sobriety Confidential. It is a really helpful read. Chris Sicke, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and being so candid.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll be back after this.